I want to talk a different subject. I want to talk about imagery. My background a long time ago was in agriculture, but I found satellite imaging far more interesting. So I spent the last 30, 40 years working in satellite imagery and technology side and sales side for a number of different companies. And now that my primary job is to be retired, I'm working with my old friends. Steph and I have known each other for 15 or 20 years, Christian for 5, and helping bring solutions primarily to their national governments that are really best of breed solutions that cross multiple providers, multiple vendors, just depending on what their needs are. I'm rather agnostic. I just look for what people need. And I know all these companies, so that's how I work. A little bit on this is, if you can't see it, it doesn't exist. And if you're not watching it, you can't see change. And that goes to the SDG, Sustainable Development type discussion. But what we're really looking at, and what the importance and why I'm here to a big degree, is shared national, very high resolution base maps are required for a nation to work together. If you don't have a fresh base map, you can't do your telco work, you can't do your mining work, you can't do your energy work, you can't do your national planning because you don't know what's there. The population of Suriname from when you got your last imaging base over the populated areas in 2008 to today has grown 100,000 people. That means there's 25,000 new houses somewhere in this country. And where are they? And if you're working on censuses and things like that, you need a good fresh base. Plus, you're moving towards the geospatial hub to provide the infrastructure to pull a nation together. And so here's some thoughts on reference layers. First, just a really general one. The satellite industry for imaging nations is changing really, really, really fast. There are new providers. There's dozens of constellations. Before there were single-digit EO satellites, Earth observation. Now there's hundreds and thousands up there, and they do anything you want. You just have to pick the best ones. The amazing resolution, plummeting prices, real-time delivery, streaming, online analytics, all of this in the last 3 to 4 years has become possible. 5 years ago, it was not. For the infrastructure wasn't there, the imaging wasn't there. Today it is. Okay, this is Christian's rendition of my slide, so I got to think about it a second. A nation needs base maps. And there's usually 2 to 3 that are really, really required. One of them that we have down here is a very high resolution digital terrain model so that you know the topography of the land, and that's for disaster planning, flood management, national planning. Where do you put houses? Where do you put people? If you have where do you put airports? Are the airports going to be flooded or not? The free terrain maps are 30 meters. These are 5. You need very high resolution data so you can see trees and cars and everything of the whole country, not just the populated areas. And for the real populated areas, the best imagery that's available, it could be considered as 30 centimeter imagery. Resolution here, I'll show some in a bit, but you can see the dashboard, you can see the windshields of cars, that type of resolution. I bring this in because Suriname is 177,000 square kilometers. You do have 2 databases that are out there over the populated areas. A panchromatic, a black and white one that collected very high resolution from aircraft in 2008. And you have an older 5 meter imagery over the whole country. I actually sold that or was involved in the sale of that 10 years ago. And those databases exist. Where do the people live today? Where are the roads today? Where's the coast today? You have erosion. How do you plan for disasters? When you're looking at coordinating a whole country, how does everybody use a common database to make decisions? Where do you run your new fiber lines? All of these types of things. Are you monitoring legal and illegal activities in the interior? These are all image-based solutions. If you don't do it with imagery, you're being incredibly inefficient on the approach. How do you do planning? And do you use, my point on efficiency, do you use more people or do you use the technology? Hiring people is hard. This is something Christian put together. This shows imagery that was collected over, the black and white is the 2008 image, and this shows what's happened just on this little area of the coast with imagery that was collected this year. New houses, new places, new roads, new lots of things, and that's why it's time to update. So I want to go back to national reference layers. These are the base layers that Steph talked about in his presentation of reality. You create a digital twin like you were talking about, Doric, based on reality. And this is reality. This is what is here today. This 50 centimeter resolution of imagery, you can see every car in the country in it, is, and I'm pushing this a little bit because it's available. Is available to complete coverage of all of Suriname with less than 3% clouds is available today. And as part of that, just put a little announcement in the beginning, the company that provides, GISAT, is a provider of this, and they can sell you and give you in an hour little pieces of this imagery, and available today over anywhere in the country. But I think I'm promoting that the country, and for you to consider that for a national base map for your hub and for all of your work, this type of imagery is available today. The common base map for all planning, when you're doing a census, knowing where every house in 2023, hard to believe, is already there. For clear communications, for your national cartography, for national cadastre, for disaster management, for infrastructure development, for defense and boundary disputes, of which Suriname has a couple. This is where you look and say this tree is here, this tree is here, this tree is here. Asset management, mines, parks, and everything. And at this resolution, you see every tree, house, car, and village in the country. I just want to bring in some of the changes that have occurred in the industry. There's some satellites out there now with can image at 50 centimeters, this, with 150 kilometers south width, and in 4 passes, they image all of Suriname. Now, if there's clouds, then they get lots of clouds, but if you happen to get it on a clear day, you can get all of Suriname in 4 days. 3 passes, and these are a near nadir, so the data are looking straight down. With being somewhat opportunistic, I pushed the imaging company for this one to image all of Suriname in advance. Just because Suriname, you can only image the country for 3 months. Your country for 3 months. August, September, October. In July, you get clouds, and it's worse than that before July. And in November, now it looks like this, and it's worse. This is from a satellite from Planet that does daily imaging of the world. And even every day, this is as good as they could get. But in July, August, September, October, it's clear, more or less. They imaged all of Suriname. This was just as of September. They worked for 2 more months, and they got all of Suriname at less than 3% clouds. It exists. And then if that is not enough resolution, I want to go back to this one, actually. Don't let this one drift, because this is an inner. Let me go back one more. This is the village of Palemu. Help me there. Thank you. That's my Dutch coming in. This was collected 3 months ago, August 24th, November 24th, 2 months ago, and I changed the colors because I just wanted to highlight some things. It isn't really a very natural color, it's a false color. But here you see this is at 50 centimeters, you see every building, the airport, if you're familiar with this village, this is the airport up here, and this is the river down here, and there's a conflux of 2 rivers in this image. But if you want to know every building, every car in Suriname, this database has it. And for when you're doing a digital twin, this is what you use for your base. I've already shown that. If that is not good enough, the best imagery that is available commercially today is 30 centimeter. Over time, it gets better. But this is 30 centimeter imagery over Paramaribo, excuse me, from 2 weeks ago. And the thing you see about 30 centimeter imagery is now all of a sudden you can see the windshields of all the cars. And something like this is not complete for the populated area because I couldn't talk them into doing that. But all of the populated area and all of the villages could be collected next September, August, September, October. There is a lot available today, but not complete. But 50 centimeter for a whole country should be a base, and 30 centimeter for the populated areas if you want to go that route. I was looking for my chart. And I want to talk about a different one now. This is a database you have already. You bought a 5-meter database, I think in 2012. And it's important. This one is a nice resolution, 5 meters, about the size of this room, width of this room, a little smaller than that. Because these satellites have been monitoring this particular one, have been working since 2010, I want to say. I worked for the company at that time, so I but I think that's when we started, 2009. And so you can monitor all the way back of changes, September 16, September 17, you can see the roads. If you want to put it into context, it's in here, in this area. 2018 you had here, 2020 these were the road scores. So you can monitor the change that's occurring in your country very, very easily. And the all interesting thing is when you get to an end of a road, this is what it looked in 2017. Amazingly, we have mines that appear at the end of the road a few years later. This is September 22. This database, here's an interesting opportunity for everybody in this room if you're interested in imagery and monitoring change. Planet, the company that owns these satellites, they image the whole world every day, almost, short of about 5%. The Norwegians, about 3 years ago, purchased for all the tropical areas the license to provide this imagery to everybody to monitor forest change. That means that you can, anything that does with forest change. Mining is doing forest. Forestry is dealing with forest. New housing is dealing with forest. 2 minutes, I'll be done. These data are available for free for the next year at least. For everybody in this room, if you want to go in and look with it, you can see the pictures, you can download it for analysis, you can do everything. It's monthly, all you get is the monthly coverages. The daily coverages are given to somebody else. But the monthly coverages, which are cloud-free mosaics and ready for analysis, are free for Suriname, but for all of the tropics, plus or minus 30 degrees. And it's on the Planet website. Look for NICFI, the Norwegian something, but planet.com/NICFI, and you can go sign up and you can have access to all of this imagery. It's cool. The last thing, and so those are the 3 databases that I think are really important. 50 centimeter for the country, 30 centimeter for where you really need the detail for cadastre and things like that, and 5 meter for some sort of a monitoring program so you can see change in between the time that you are working on, that you buy another national coverage. I also want to promote, because this is what I do for all countries, a very high resolution digital terrain model. And they exist also, and they're fairly inexpensive in price. Most people use the free one, it's 30 meters, but if you want to do flood management and you want to do disaster management inside your nation, you need a very high resolution terrain model. If you want to make sure your airports don't get flooded, if you want to make sure that the houses don't get flooded, if you have a disaster somewhere in the hinterlands and the interior, you want to see which houses are being affected, you bring the 50 centimeter imagery in with a terrain model and you can see exactly what's going on. It's available for all of Suriname. Now is a good time when you're looking at some major, setting up a geospatial hub, set up the foundation layers correctly. This is not Suriname, but it shows a 3D model. I have just finished, I do a lot of work in Africa with World Food Program and others. I set up a national geospatial hub for the country of Lesotho with my colleagues there. The foundation databases that we provided were a national DTM, national 50 centimeter base. For them, since it's a small country, I had one of my buddies in India go through and manually identify every building in the country so they could do easy GIS analysis. And it provided a monthly monitoring, or actually a couple times a year monitoring, so they could watch change inside the country, in addition to the Esri Enterprise Hub that they set up to manage all this, and for the first time really provide national sharing for national planning. So let's see, I had one other point I wanted to make. Oh, on this one, we just got through selling for the 50 centimeter database for almost all of Colombia. We'll finish it up next year, but 700,000 square, we imaged just like we did here. We imaged all of Colombia, and now it's available, and they just finished purchasing 700,000 square kilometers. So their cartography department for using that. And there are other ones that we're working on in South America. This is a very reasonable approach that was not possible 2 or 3 years ago. The cool thing is, for some of these images, maybe all of them, I don't know, but for the 50 centimeter and the 30 centimeter imagery, it's available through Libra. They just became a reseller of these images, and you can buy as small as 5 square kilometers and here and there. And since the data are already in the archive, you can buy, it'll be delivered in hours. So it's all there. It's online. You just go click, 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 pay your money. And it's commercial. This is not free stuff. This is commercial. Pay your money, and you'll have the imagery to do your work in an hour. So that is what I wanted to say, and it's within 15 minutes. How's that?
Thank you, John. John just arrived this last night, late. I don't know if you slept at all. So
No,
thank
I
you for
did.
being here. You did.
I had to be prepared.
Okay, but Steph was there with his rock guitar. Were you able to sleep at all?
He was already gone to bed when I showed up. He's an old man.
John, we got a question. John, is this guy an old guy? No. We just had received a question about updating the 50 centimeter base maps. Maybe you can elaborate a bit on that. How do nations do this? Or what is the frequency of updating a base map?
Yeah, well, so everybody says you should do it every year, but those are the guys that are trying to sell it. Usually for most countries, every 5 years is good. I mean, I'm very pragmatic on that, and it ends up being 7. Now that the price of this has come down so much with the data, it becomes reasonable every 5 years to do a national approach on that.
Who in this audience uses satellite imagery in their work? Can you raise your hands, please? I assume on a daily basis. Do you need centimeter satellite imagery, centimeter resolution, or are you working with Landsat, with Sentinel, with 20 meters, with 30 meters, or SRTM? You need centimeters. Okay, GLIS needs centimeters because they're doing the parcels and the parcel ID. Who doesn't need centimeter accuracy? You don't need centimeter accuracy. You don't need centimeter. So the rest needs it. ABS, Telesur, NIMOS, SOSAFO. You need to know exactly where the people are.
And fresh. The whole country was collected. 90% of the country was collected in the last 3 months.
Okay.
And so it's completely fresh. Let's see, I had one other comment on that you know, every satellite has a purpose, and every resolution has a purpose. And so, you know, if you don't need 50 centimeter imagery, then great, 5 meters is perfect for that. But when you need it, you need it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, John. Can I have an applause for John again?